Greetings, dear horror fans. You are watching or later on listening to Horror Nerds at Church, a ridiculously queer podcast where we take a deep dive into a horror film and talk about how it connects to queerness, religion, and theology. I'm Pastor Emily, and I am not picking a horror movie I don't know just because the title intrigues me ever again. I'm really sorry.
I I love it. I'm Pace, and I am the 90-minute fever dream that watching this movie while elevated on marijuana was the other day.
I'm Susanna, and I'm the techie person, but for today, the most I can give y'all is that I am the Nikki tutorials for the poster of this makeup, because it's really fantastic. I would do that as a Halloween costume, but that's about it.
And
I
I'm
do love
Qira
that smoky eye.
Clarenbach. I am the mandatory witch for October.
Yay.
Hmm.
Which is so funny. We'll get into it later, but it's so funny because we're doing witch season all season long, and somehow Kira, our actual witch for the season, aside from me and River, who'll be on later, lands in October, which is such a trope. But we'll get into that later. Anyway, follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/horror nerds at church. It starts at only $5 to sign up, but you get so much cool stuff. You get BooTube episodes where we cover a TV show. This month, you're getting Sabrina the Teenage Witch and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. You're
Hmm.
getting for our movie commentary, we're doing Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Mm.
And then for horror buff members who are our exclusive club of $10 a month members, they get access to all of that, plus also a full-length episode on Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which Emily has not seen, and I cannot wait to show her, or show them. So sorry, show them because I love this movie so much.
I'm super
And I love
excited to see
Elvira.
it. I think it'll be fun. I don't know when
Yeah.
we're gonna actually like get around to watching it, but it'll be fun. We'll do it.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah, totally.
Um, and the last thing Patreon subscribers get, well, two things. One is you get um horror recommendations from yours truly. So, and I hear it's my superpower.
It
Um, and then
is.
the other and then
I
the
would
other
just,
thing you get is all the tea. So,
you do get all the tea. You get all the tea about Pace in my lives. But also, I cannot stress this enough. Horror buffs get Pace's horror recommendations. Our episode today is a great example of why you don't want my horror recommendations. However, if you are want to be a horror buff and you want recommendations on like Disney and Christmassy movies, I got you covered.
Single all the way
Day
for
Envy.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, yeah. I'm just so sorry about this movie. On behalf of I don't know, the
No, it's
movie.
fine. Stop
Um,
apologizing. It was an adventure. That's what we'll say.
that is what my best friend uses to talk about stuff when she doesn't want to give away if it's like good or bad or something else. It was an adventure. It covers
Hmm.
any number of things. Anyway, if you are not with us at 10 on October 15th at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time and are listening to this episode on your favorite podcast provider, check the show notes for any content warnings for this episode and for links to all the books we mentioned on our bookshop.org store. And for everyone watching or listening, check the show notes for links to our newsletter, merch store, and Patreon. Yeah.
Yay.
And now, our guest. Qira Clarenbach is, among other things, a third-degree priestess in the Stone Circle tradition of Wicca, where Faye has been involved for the past 25 years. Faye was also ordained as a Unitarian Universalist minister in 2015 after receiving Fair Masters of Divinity from Wesley Theological Seminary, and has been a spiritual director since 2014. perhaps most pertinent for this show. Despite having two excellently spooky black cats, Faye knows almost nothing about horror film as a genre. Wonderful. Welcome. You are not
I
alone.
thought
Yay.
that was why I felt about the movie the way that I did, but apparently not.
No, you are not
No.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Pace and I joke that so the last season that we did was Star Wars and Alien franchises. And so we would joke that I was the horror Padawan and Pace was the horror master. Um,
Mhm.
I think I was actually a horror youngling, but now I think I'm a Padawan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Soon you
So
may
you're not
become a
alone.
horror knight.
One of these days.
Speaking though of your two excellent spooky black cats, right now it is Horror Nerds at Church's pet costume contest. And look at that transition I just made. Whenever we make a transition, just for the record here, since you're joining us, we have to point out we actually did a successful transition, which ruins the whole thing
Good
about it being a
job.
successful transition.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's kind of how we roll.
I'm very
By
proud of
the
you, Pace. That was
way,
so good.
if I can totally hijack your transition,
Please.
my cats are named Lilith and Mazikeen.
Oh, I
And
love it.
if you know the Sandman universe or the show Lucifer, you will know that
Oh.
my cat Lilith has a kitten, and the kitten's name is Mazikeen. The demon.
Oh,
Yes, it's
I
so
love
sweet.
it.
I did not know that because I don't know those ones, but I do like the name Lilith for my own personal reasons.
Yes, well, and Lilith in her defamatory history
Uh-huh.
is the mother of demons, right? She's the mother of demons. So,
Yeah.
and Mazikeen is a demon who his mother is Lilith. I just thought it went with the show. So
I love
there
it.
you go.
I
I'm
love it.
Yeah,
interrupting. I'm an interrupty kind of guest.
Perfect.
that's
That's what we
good.
like. They hear us all
Yeah,
the time.
we're almost all in this room ADHD. So, I mean, it fits right in.
I'm
Um,
ADHD by osmosis.
yeah,
You can't
they
live
live in
with
a
five
household of ADM.
ADHD adults and not become a little bit
So,
too much ADHD. Ooh,
yeah.
but yeah, speaking of
Pet
pets,
costume contest.
um, our Horror Nerds at Church pet costume contest is still in full swing. So make sure that you send us your pet costume, your pets or plants or stuffed animals in their costumes so that we can put you in for all sorts of
Yep.
awesome prizes, including a pet portrait that I will do, that will be randomly
Yep.
drawn. But also, you get Halloween, the
3 Season of the Witch,
three Season
Blu-ray
of the
or
Witch
4K or DVD,
fancy thing, um,
and a free
and
merch item.
free merch and a free merch item.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of different options for that, and everyone except for my puppers and Pace's puppers get to enter
Yep.
because
Yep.
my puppers would win, and so it's just not fair to let them
Yep.
enter.
So submit by October 25th of this year. That's
I thought it was October
2024.
20th.
I mean, no,
Pace
because
has
nobody has
extended the
submitted
deadline to be
yeah,
kind and clement.
because nobody has submitted one, and we are how many days from the 20th? Not many. So I'm like, let's
Yeah.
do another week. But anyway,
Okay.
yes, being kind and clement. Gandalf's costume, my dog's only arrived today, and I didn't get a chance to try it on him yet, so I'm excited. But
We're
yes,
on
please
queer
submit.
time.
Go to yeah,
We're on queer
but go
people
to
time.
bit.ly/HNAC pets 24. HNACP is all capitalized, the rest is lowercase. And also you can look at that in the comment or show notes to submit your pet. And
Yeah.
so we pick our top 5 favorites, and then we give it back to all of you to vote on which of those is your favorite.
Mhm.
So
And I won the first season before I was a co-host, and so I could enter with my Little Basil Shop of Horrors. So all sorts of possibilities.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if Lilith and I can't remember the other one's name.
Mazikeen, but you can call her
Mazikeen.
Maze.
Maze. I don't know if Lilith and Maze have costumes yet, but I'm just saying.
They do have bat wings.
That's perfect.
I love it.
That's
See?
perfect. Send them in. You
Submit
never
them.
know.
Yep.
Maze is like,
Everyone.
I will fucking claw your eyes right out of your head if you
No,
put
maybe
those
just
bat wings
Lilith.
on me. But Lilith, there's a chance.
I love it.
Because everybody who submits will be in the running for the pet portrait. It's not a like realistic portrait. Exactly. It's cool though. I promise. I'm doing it. I promise it's cool.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
So make sure you enter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Um,
how's everybody doing?
but yeah, how's everyone tonight? I mean, I guess I can start. I am really tired, but I'm looking forward to vacation next week. Going to Cancun, Mexico, which I've never been before. And yeah, that's about where I'm at. Been reading and watching a lot of cool stuff. Just finished The Haunted Mansion Storm and Shade by a past guest of the podcast, Claudia Gray. It was fantastic. If you want a nice YA kind of spooky but not too scary read, definitely check out that book. Um, and the main character suffers from generalized anxiety disorder, which I also have. And so it's kind of cool to have that in common with a character and be seen in that way. So that's what I've been up to. What about any of you?
Speaking of anxiety, I just watched Inside Out 2,
Oh,
and that movie is adorable. And also,
hmm.
like, who hits home? I was like, anxiety. I just want to like wrap you in a hug and squeeze you very tight so you can't move. Um, I mean, hi
It is a horror
anxiety.
show.
Hmm?
It said it is a horror show. So if you squeeze anxiety,
You know. Yeah.
Yes.
I just watched that, and I am still working my way through the Lunar Chronicles books. I just had to renew them at the library because they auto-renewed all of the times they could, and they had to be returned. I'm a slow reader because I have puppies. They like to take their time going to sleep. So then I'm exhausted and I fall asleep. There was one time, 3 nights in a row, I read the same page.
Oh.
Fell asleep reading the same page 3 nights in a row. But I am also traveling next week so that I can help move one of our people in our family to Baltimore to be family with us. We're very
Yay.
excited. I'm excited because I think during our moving, we have it planned out where we'll have time and I might be able to like read at night.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Wow. Excitement
We know
abounds.
Mm-hmm.
we know one book a day person who is the one you're moving will also probably be doing a lot of reading because that's their MO. So you'll have plenty of time to read too.
It's true. It's true.
Delightful.
Yeah. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm sorry, what?
How
Oh,
are you doing?
How are you doing?
I am not traveling next week, but the following week, I am going to be with my bestie, who is the queen of Halloween, and
Mm.
who has made sort of construct golem-y looking thing with big long arms out of dead vines from like grapes and blackberries and stuff.
Mhm.
And she has 3 life-size skeletons which are going to be hanging from a tree uh, and lit up like witches. So they'll have
Ooh.
witch hats and it's going to be great. And we have a Halloween party in her driveway with
Ooh.
little bags for trick-or-treaters and hot chocolate and mulled cider. And
Ooh.
I am going to be Cinderella's fairy godmother for
Oh,
Halloween.
I love it.
And I'm going to be the cutest one ever.
Um, I love that. I would like to come trick or treat to you because that sounds delightful.
Yes.
Also,
Unfortunately, the other side of the country.
I mean, rude, but okay.
Yes.
It's allowed, I guess. Are you what style of fairy godmother are you? Right? There's like Billy Porter, there's like
Wow.
a whole
I
game.
am actually the original animated fairy godmother from Cinderella.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, like, I have the velvet blue robe that's pink on the inside and has little silver swirly things on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I have a wand. I did not get the white wig that you
I
can
was
get.
wondering about that.
No white wig because I'm too, you can't really tell with this background, but I'm too proud of my purple hair. I
That's fair. That's
it
legit.
makes me
You should be
happy.
proud of it.
Yeah, exactly. And here's a thing though that is very upsetting to me. I may have to trade the wand that I got for a stick that I find somewhere because I believe the wand that I have is designed to look like Hermione Granger's wand.
Oh,
Um,
and we do not
Sad.
stand.
Nothing for JK from me.
Yeah. Also
right.
PSA. That's a great PSA. Apparently there's a Hogwartsy show coming to Netflix. People. It's
HBO Max,
HBO.
but yes.
Okay, HBO Max. If you want ally cookies, I will give them to you for not streaming or secretly trying to watch the Hogwarts HBO show. She
I mean, it's
literally
gonna be
says
like
the more
another three
money she
years, but yeah.
makes, the more she doesn't care about how transphobic she is.
Hmm.
All
That
the
was an
cookies.
excellent transition, by the way.
I know. I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll just throw this PSA. I will give you all the cookies, all the ally cookies. But you owe like 50 times as many if you secretly stream it and just don't tell anyone.
Hmm.
Hard truths. No cheap grace here. Sorry. Anyway.
Let alone the people who see it and brag about it. I can't.
Ugh.
Mm.
And still
Yeah.
claim to pretend to be allies. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it my turn?
Yes.
yeah, go
Susanna.
for it, Susanna.
Okay, you know how like I previously have had several disorders or things that I talk about that you're not supposed to talk about, like, like my ADHD and my depression, and then when I had the Bartholin cyst and the labia slicing. Okay, this time that was a content warning for that. Like I posted a picture
Hmm.
on Facebook of like the medical bed with all the blood running off of it. And I was like, what happens when like healthcare doesn't cover you getting put under and the pain that it's in? So, like, today's episode of Weird Things Susanna has that she's trying to remove stigma is I have a malfunctioning butt. Um, Basically, now I have a disorder called piriformis, and it's a muscle that's like right underneath of your major gluteus muscle, and I'm using it too much and not using my actual butt muscle enough. So what I've been up to is butt exercises, trying to strengthen my butt. Like the what we think of as the butt, because the piriformis is like supposed to be like the like assistant to the gluteus maximus, but I've been like
Mhm.
using it as like the main show, and it gets tired. And so I'm like, why can't I walk? Why can't I stand up for more than 10 minutes? And it's because my piriformis is very tired and would like my butt to like stop being so lazy. So that's what's going
Not
on there.
lazy,
I
weak.
Yeah, it's very weak. I honestly like am kind of like chalking it up to like all those years of ballet when I was a kid, because I took like 15 years of
Hmm.
ballet, and like you're not supposed to lift your hips, which requires, your butt. You're supposed to do everything with your legs, with your back. Like you're not supposed to do stuff with your hips, and they have to stay straight and down. And I think I just like forgot how to use my butt. So that's what's up with
I
me.
mean,
Butt
combine that with
muscles.
COVID and yeah. Don't
Everyone
forget
wants
That's
to.
a
to get your
crying
COVID vaccine.
shame.
Yeah. And I mean,
Boosters.
like, and also we have to be out because our landlord is selling the house. So there's been a lot of like drama about that and difficulty, and um us like we just got everything in this house and now we have to leave, and it's really frustrating. But other than that, the puppy is 7 months old now, and she's
Yesterday,
she's not biting everybody all the time anymore, and that's
Mhm.
great. And because
she doesn't like eye contact.
she doesn't like eye contact. She's very peculiar. She's got just as many issues as everybody else in the house. And but she's getting better with eye contact because we're giving her treats when she makes eye contact. So like basically treats equals yes and no. And but she's gotten very cuddly in the last couple weeks, and she's super super cuddly. So yeah, she's got issues. She's got behavioral modifications got to go on, just like the rest of us. She was taken from her mother when she was only 4 weeks old, so she has family of origin trauma, just like the rest of us. So like it's a
Yes, she
whole,
does.
yeah, it's a whole. I did not take her from her mother at 4 weeks old. I just want to be clear. Like
Yeah,
we
she's a rescue.
she's a rescue. She was part of a breeding farm, and they like I think they had an oops litter where it was not a purebred German Shepherd, and they like handed those babies over right away. Um, so yeah, and then the other one's the angel that she always is, Bailey. She's fantastic, amazing dog, who's always perfect and is part nanny for the baby. So
Hmm.
that's what we've been up to. Yeah, I watched all of The Perfect Couple. I did do that, and that is some horror in terms of like the horror that is, because it's a murder mystery. The horror that is, um, super super rich people. Like it
Mm.
Mm.
makes super super rich people a horror murder mystery show, and that was fantastic.
I love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's
I'm
unreal.
done. Thanks for letting me check in too. I feel special. I'll go
Yeah, of
back to
course.
my dashboard.
No,
You're a
we love
magic
you.
girl of wild magic.
Yep.
You make everything happen.
Speaking of wild magic, another transition. So we asked this question. Well, first of all, we're going to cover Black Sunday. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we do, we have our question we have to ask all of our guests, which is, do you have a real life church horror story? Now, this can be supernatural. This can be church people being shitty to each other, which is more times than not what it is, or religious trauma or religious people being awful. But we've also had people talk about like ghost hauntings or like surprisingly
Exorcisms.
a lot of
I
exorcisms what we've
didn't
had
know
on this
so many
podcast.
people I knew had exorcisms. Not that they personally had them, but had witnessed them.
Mm. Well, you're asking me now
Yeah.
at this
Hmm.
point?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is what we ask our
so,
guests, if you have one.
right. So I was so Catholic growing up.
Mm.
So Catholic. I belonged to a conservative, traditional, very musical congregation. And I loved it there. And I was in all the musical things: handbells, organ, piano, singing, directing, you name it, I did it. But then I had a little rebellious phase when I was in high school. for a minute, like a summer. I
Just a minute.
attended. See, I had a crush on this girl who lived across the parking lot, and
mhm.
she looked like a young Elvis. She was very, very just mm, chef's kiss. And she belonged to a Pentecostal church.
Ooh.
And I, there was also she had another roommate who, even in my as yet unenlightened queer years, was queer.
Mm.
But I
Wait, so were
attended
they
their,
roommates or roommates?
no, they were roommates. They were just
Okay,
roommates.
just
Yes.
checking. You gotta check on these.
Excellent question. And there was a third one, but I don't remember her.
Mm,
Because the other two really had my attention.
real.
So I don't know how much our listeners know about various Pentecostal traditions, but um, in many Pentecostal traditions, like the Church of God in Christ, or this was a unity church, but not the unity church denomination, nor the Unitarian Universalist denomination,
I
just to be
assumed not that
confusing.
one.
I'm sorry.
I assumed not Unitarian
Yeah,
Universalist.
not Unitarian Universalist, but Unity Church of Jesus Christ. It was not affiliated with a denomination. It was merely a Pentecostal church on its own. And there were prophecies, people prayed in tongues, people were routinely slain in the spirit. And if you happen to have a skirt on when you were slain in the spirit, some helpful gentleman would put his jacket over your legs so you weren't immodest while you were being slain in the spirit.
Mm.
That's
I was the subject of a deliverance.
Mm.
Deliverance is kind of like exorcism and involves a circle of people getting extremely close to you and touching you and praying on you really loudly in English, in other languages, and while praying in tongues to deliver you of the spirit of whatever is afflicting you. The funny thing is that I can't remember what the ostensible spirit
thing.
that was afflicting me. I remember, however, another time with the same crew when we were all praying together in a circle and somebody said, I sense a spirit of homosexuality right now here in this circle. And I don't think they were talking about me. I think they were talking about the young Elvis. And I was very
Mm.
distressed for her because I loved her.
Yeah.
But deliverance itself was terrifying.
I was gonna ask if it was that you.
Effective?
No, I was not gonna ask that. I was gonna ask if you actually had wanted it or if
No,
you. Okay. I didn't
no, I did not.
think so, but then I was like,
It
yeah,
could have been. I mean, I was 16. I was,
right? 16 year
all
olds
kinds
have
of
some
things were
pretty
okay.
bad ideas about themselves.
Yeah.
They do. Although this too could be considered a horror story about church.
Mhm.
I met the Pope later that year.
Ooh.
Oh
When
wow.
I returned to being Catholic. Like I said, it was a minute. Um, I met the Pope, and the horror part of the story is that my mother had a photograph of when I met the Pope. And I look like one of those girls from the old black and white pictures of Frank Sinatra concerts. I was like,
Oh my goodness.
and she put it up in her office where she worked. And I was like, Mom, what are you
Right?
doing to me?
That is teenage horror,
It
100%.
was teenage
Uh-huh.
horror. So those are my churchy horror stories.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love it.
One
Thank
of
you
those
for
is
sharing.
a much more like laughable one than the other.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
Because Deliverance was bad.
yeah.
Like, that's bad. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Ugh. That's yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
ties
But
it like
And there,
that happens so frequently with queer people
it does.
where somebody's, I would like to pray for you.
That
Disabled
and
people
that has
too,
or
happened
right?
I
to me
would
Like,
a
like to
billion
take your
times.
coffee.
yeah, but like
Mm,
that dynamic of like clearly there is something wrong with you, and so I'm going to be the benevolent Christian and help you and other you and
and fix it.
yeah.
Fix what is
Hmm.
wrong. Yeah, it's very sad and distressing and angry making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
And now, yeah.
speaking of distressing, La Maschera del Demonio.
Yes.
You're fantastic.
The
You are we had one other guest who like did
Brenda
the
Voss, yeah.
transitions when they
What?
Amazing.
also fantastically. That was so spot on. You're right. We are watching Black Sunday is the English non-translation of La Mascara del Demonio. I do not know Italian, so I don't
Yeah.
know that I
You're
pronounced that
good.
right. But The Mask of the Demon, which came out in 1960 and was directed by Mario Bava.
Yeah.
I picked it because I was like, Black Sunday, this I gotta see. Like, there's so much
Yeah.
that could be terrible about it. And
And
it turns
was,
out
but not perhaps what you thought it
it
would
was
be.
terrible, but in none of the ways I thought it would be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
19 we covered one other 1960 movie. I usually type this in the outline, but I was running behind this week, which was Psycho from season 1, so pre-Emily being co-host. But yeah.
Yeah.
But that's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Not
Much
seen
better than
that
this
one.
one.
It's
You'll
amazing.
have to. We'll have to do a movie commentary on it.
Terrifying. Terrifying movie. So good.
Hmm. I
Silence of the
watched it. I
Lambs is the thing
literally
that made me
watched it
think
like,
I didn't like.
oh yeah. I literally watched Psycho like 3 or 4 days ago.
Of
So
course you did.
fresh in my mind. Um, so when was the first time you have seen this movie, Emily?
The first time I saw this movie was for this podcast, as per usual.
Yay. After you picked it,
Yeah,
to be clear.
I was trying to be diverse in my
I like it though.
movies.
We don't need
We
to
would
be
never
Midwestern and over apologize. I love it.
we would never have watched it otherwise. And now we
Yeah,
know
it's true.
to
And now we have
advise
seen it.
our, listeners that it's probably not worth your time
I mean,
unless you
yeah,
want to see Dracula tweaked a little.
it's interesting. I'll give it that. This was also my first time seeing it, and this was your first time as well, Kira, or have you seen this one before?
Oh no, it was my first.
It was an adventure.
I watched
Going
it
back to
on
what your roommate said.
Sunday because it was Black Sunday. I was like, I'm gonna save it so it'll be
I
fresh.
love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's smart.
I don't have my so to be real, probably listeners, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the movie, but then by the time of the deep dive, we'll get into other stuff that's probably more interesting than the movie. But the movie was fine. It's kind of loosely based on this horror novella by Nikolai Gogol, I believe is how you would say his last name.
Hmm.
And it was first published in a volume of his collection of tales entitled Mirgorod, which came out in 1835. And so this movie is also black and white, which was a stylistic choice, but also practical. Technicolor did exist long before then. We talked about that in our Wizard of Oz episode 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
But Bava, the studio actually wanted him to do it in color, and he argued with them over it because he thought, first of all, stylistically it would look better, but secondly, the transformation special effect which was actually probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
But it looked much better in black and white than it would have in color, he said. So that's why I went it in black and white.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I think those were good choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a one sentence summary, Emily?
Yes. A new offbeat Christmas special about the Princess of Moldavia and her look-alike ancestor.
Moldavia. I love it.
No, they said Moldavia, but the
They
all of those
did. The
Christmas
country,
movies are
Moldova.
Moldo. But there's
Yeah.
the Christmas movies all take place in Moldavia.
But I thought it was Moldovia because Moldovia was a historic country that is now part Moldova and part Romania. But there used to be a country called Moldavia.
It's entirely
Wow.
possible. Do you know how much research I did for this?
The same as always.
Yep.
I love it.
It
My
just
one
sounded like a
sentence
setup
summary.
for a Christmas movie.
Yeah. It did. My one sentence summary is witch beings, vampires, which is technically two sentences because they're both questions. Yeah, we can roll through this movie.
Did you have a one sentence summary? You don't have to, Kira, but
No, I don't.
that's fair.
That's good.
I
That's
don't.
good.
That's fair. My other one sentence summary was going to be Dracula-ish.
Except, well, I was actually kind of fascinated by the mask of Satan thing. I really was interested in
Yeah.
that. That was like the only thing that really, and their encounter with the tomb. Like everything
Mm,
else, I was like, this is an hour and a half I'm never getting back ever.
right?
It's true. I appreciate your sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was like, what? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and best academic advice also. Yes. You'll come to that, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
No. That was some
Yeah.
solid, terrible.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I loved the mask though. I thought that was well done in the beginning in
I
the
do
transformation
too.
scene.
Oh, it
Yeah.
looked like
And then the rest it was fine, but yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's like an Iron Maiden just for your face.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I didn't think she would be able to scream. I
I had that question as well.
like the spikes were not just here. It was also up here, right? It was like the whole face. Oh, I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking like it's gonna get your brain and then you're dead. Like, bam,
Mm-hmm.
one and done kind of thing.
They didn't look pointy, the spikes, so much.
It's
Like
true.
pointy enough. And they didn't, well, there are
They,
many
like,
things we could say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Banged
they
it
did.
on,
Could just
right? Like,
Oh, that's right. They did. They had extra help.
yeah. So
Mhm.
you can pierce his skull that way.
Yes, you can.
Oof.
I love the ways we talk about killing. So
Yep.
good.
Kill murder, bad, to quote Nerds at Church.
Murder bad. It's true. It's true. I just felt like it was starting out a lot like Dracula, the Dracula movie that we watched, the 1931 version, which we watched in our vampire season, because it's like some people going to this faraway place, and then the people who are like taking them there in the carriage, no, this is not where you want to go. This is not how we want to do this, but they go anyway. And then there's this big fancy mansion and all of the castle thingy
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. So I was like, this feels like Dracula. But then it
Yeah.
veers. It takes a turn.
I think it
Yeah.
felt like Eastern European folktales.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean that's
like
largely what Dracula was.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. The only part that I really have notes for this is from the carriage scene because that was just such a wild carriage scene. But I also love, we'll talk about this later too, vampires and witches. Like Is she both? Is she one or the other? I don't know.
What's
But
the
that
difference?
short
Wait.
carriage scene. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead, please.
No. I was just gonna
Oh,
say the vampires and witches thing, like they just couldn't make up their mind.
right.
Right?
They just couldn't make up their mind. No.
Yeah. I was like,
But the carriage scene just gave us so much right away. And it's only like a 5-minute scene, but honestly, I think it's the most interesting part of the movie, their conversation, because it's off the rails, I think. It is so unhinged. Well, first of all, it's the overdubbing, which is how Italian films were made back then. It up until as recently as the 80s, is they would often have the actors record their dialogue in whatever language they're most comfortable speaking, because it would be a multinational cast, multilingual cast, and then they would just overdub the whole thing in English for international release and Italian for Italian release. And so it's always like there is no authentic in the original language version of it. It's always been overdubbed.
That's so
But
helpful because I kept
yeah.
thinking it was me. Because
no. He told me that while we
because
were
I would
watching
be
it.
like, wait, this person is speaking English and that person doesn't look like they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Another movie we
Helpful.
covered in the podcast was The Same Way, which was Suspiria. If you ever watched the original Suspiria, another good witch movie, but that one's actually scary. So if you're now a horror movie fan, maybe skip that one. But in this short little carriage scene, we hear about a lunch made out of smoked salmon and vodka, and just that's it. I actually kind
I
of
mean,
want that now.
I've been to
Um,
Ukraine.
Smoked salmon and vodka.
I don't know about the smoked salmon part, but the vodka part tracks.
Oh, I'll
Yeah,
trade
yeah.
you. You can have my vodka if I get your salmon.
Deal.
Uh, and then also, as Kira mentioned earlier, like the best academic advice ever. So the one guy's like, take all speeches at a conference with a grain of salt. And it's like,
Mhm.
honestly, as someone who is a lifelong academic and still working my PhD, every single conference is like, why am I here? Why am I sitting through this paper? Oh my God, I want this to end. And
Mhm.
then the guy driving the carriage is just has a bottle of vodka sitting next to him and drinking it, and they legit say, "Should you be drinking that?" And he's like, "Yep," and he just keeps drinking it. It's like, okay, I guess DWI hits different on a carriage. This is like 1800s or something, I guess,
I
but
mean,
like,
vodka,
geez,
water, it's like practically the same thing.
don't drink
Actually,
vodka and drive though, please. But yes,
actually in Slovak, which I imagine in all of the Slavic languages, voda is water. So vodka would be like the diminutive form of water.
Oh.
Oh, it tracks. It's like how in Gaelic whiskey is water of life.
Yes.
Mm.
It tracks. Also, folks, please does the dog die this one before you try and watch it? Because
If
Yes.
you love our glowing review of this movie enough to watch it, if you haven't seen
right,
it, that is because we're giving
that's
this
fair.
movie so much props for being amazing.
That's fair. That's fair. They did have a cow though, and the cow was cute.
And they had a
Uh,
milkmaid to go with the cow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she actually had a plot point. She was
She
not
did.
just like killed off. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
I know.
Like this is a woman who talks and isn't killed for the furthering of the plot. Amazing. Yeah. Also they had a secret tunnel. Secret tunnel.
I love Gothic films and their obsession with tunnels and old houses or castles.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
Turn right. Absolutely not.
yes.
Um, yeah, I did like the effects. Like the witch coming back to life. Those
Mhm.
were, I thought, pretty good effects.
Well,
Um,
and like the blood in the eye hole kind of
Hmm.
thing. That was cool.
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. Um, Also Katya faints a lot. I think maybe she's
Katya
not
Yeah.
also
eating.
looks like a wax statue.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that tracks.
And yeah, Katya taking off her cross necklace. I thought it was not there, then it was.
Right? It wasn't there, and then it wasn't. It was on backwards, and then somehow it magically turned itself around to get
And
to the
if it was on
front.
Right.
backwards, wouldn't that be a significant plot point of some kind?
Yeah.
Of
Right? Like
course
the only
not.
reason
Yeah.
that she couldn't kill her was the cross necklace.
Yeah.
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 That's what I've got for
Yeah. Yeah. That was the movie. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you're just, well, we probably should have said this since we're telling you basically don't go out and watch it. The basic plot is that witch is killed at some point in like 1500s or something with this
16, I
mask. And
believe.
then okay, thank you. And then she kind of gets pseudo resurrected slash pseudo reincarnated slash possessed by her descendant, or what the opposite of a
Mhm.
descendant is. Yeah, descendant. So
Ancestor?
that's basically the plot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ancestor,
So
yes.
But
Her
like not actual
descendant
ancestor.
is
Like I
then
don't think it was
possessed
her
by her
kid.
ancestor.
yeah,
It's like her
thank you.
great aunt or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I
So
guess we can get. Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go.
I was just gonna say we can get into a deep dive, which we have a little bit about this movie itself we want to talk about, but then some other things that I want to ask too. But go
Some
ahead.
witchy.
Yeah, some
I
witchy
liked the
things.
stuff about St. George.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please
I
share. You
told you
said you looked
I
into
did some
that.
stuff about St. George. Yeah. Because when I was a kid, we did like mummers plays of St. George and the Dragon,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah.
are from Britain. And I was like, what is St. George to do with the Russian Orthodox Church? So I looked it up. And there is a shit ton of stuff about St. George and the Russian Orthodox Church.
Oh,
And
cool.
St. George, while being one of the patrons of Britain, is also the patron of, no surprise here, the nation of Georgia,
That's
and
Okay,
right.
yeah.
is venerated throughout Eastern Europe. And what's
Mhm.
interesting too is that St. George is very similar to St. Michael the Archangel
I
in his
was
iconography.
okay. I I do pulpit supply a lot, so I go and preach at different
Oh,
churches
nice.
where the pastor can. And I was doing it at St. Matthew's in DC, and
Mhm.
they had the St. Michael and All Angels texts,
I
which
love the St. Michael and All Angels text.
I hadn't anticipated until I got them on the Tuesday before I was preaching, and then I was like, and it has
St. Michael the
Michael and the
Archangel,
dragon.
defend us in battle. Right?
Yeah,
The St.
yeah,
Michael the Archangel prayer is very important.
yeah. So I was like, this is fascinating. So
Yeah.
that's when you
Yeah.
were talking about St. George and then also talking about the dragon. I was like,
Well, this is why the fall term in Britain is called Michaelmas. Michaelmas term is because St. Michael and All Angels is September 29th. And then October 1st is his guardian angel, and October 4th is St. Francis of Assisi. I did mention I was really Catholic, right?
yes, yes, you did. My grandmother was
Okay.
too.
Yes. So, but the interesting thing is if you look at the iconography, you see St. George with a dragon, and he's like spearing the dragon. But
Mm.
you see the same thing with Michael the Archangel. And
Mhm.
but Michael the Archangel is more associated with the book of Revelation,
Yep.
and St. George is a legendary saint, right? Who also was associated with the rising of the rye. And one of my Stone Circle Wicca initiate buddies looked up St. George, and there is this whole pagan tradition associated with St. George of finding out how the rye harvest will be.
Okay, you did mean that kind of
Ooh.
rye. I was like,
Yes, rye,
oh,
RYE,
yeah,
rye. Yes, not like the dry humor kind of rye.
yeah. Because
No.
we did my other podcast, Nerds at Church, did 3 years ago the Bread of Life season. that like month of
Oh.
August where you get like all the I am the bread of life, like
Mm-hmm,
2 million times. And we did a guest episode season. We had different names for all of them, and one of them was Rise and Shine, which was both rye and rye.
Yes,
So
both Ryan Rice.
yeah.
So the priest would take a loaf of rye bread out into the field and hold it down to the field and listen. And if the bread spoke, I forget how this goes. If the bread spoke, it would tell him, get out of the way and I will emerge. And like, that was
Oh.
fine. Then the rye would come up. If it didn't say anything, then you needed to be alert for incoming climate change. I mean, problems with nature.
Okay, but is it like a freshly baked loaf? Because when you bake bread, there's a thing, and I know this because I watch Great British Baking Show, not because I think I've actually heard it a couple times, but like when you bake the bread, when it's done, you should be able to hear it like,
You can knock it on it. It should sound hollow.
yeah,
Exactly.
but you can also when it's like fresh out of the oven,
That's
it like,
cake.
really?
Yeah. Cake, if you listen to cake and it's going, that's how you know.
Hmm.
I could be wrong that it's not about bread, but my grandmother taught me it was about cake. Maybe it's both.
Mm,
They are both baked after all.
Right? I don't know.
true. It's
I
true.
only baked in the pandemic.
Yeah. I
But in
love it.
any event, I was like, St. George, St. George, St. George. St. George is all over this movie, but why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have that little icon, the
Right?
triptych,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
a painting of St. George, and the cross is looking over the witch, right? And you
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
also have this icon, which the doctor takes, and I'm like, what?
Right?
Yeah.
Joeta, like, what's going on?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't. Huh. So what's your theory? Is it that like
My
the
theory is that it had a plot point in Villa in
Mm,
the novella.
and it
That's
got
my
Yeah.
theory, is
That's
that it's
why I was wondering too.
a leftover piece of lore. Um, because like it's all about triumphing over Satan, right? And
mm,
the
Yeah.
whole
That
thing is all about the
yeah.
triumph over Satan, or the attempted triumph of Satan over Satan.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the use of the cross to do so, which made me think about Constantine and,
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other.
by the sign you will conquer, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah.
And
Interesting.
the
I was thinking about that too of like, well, I was in my head it was going to dragon to Dracula to the vampires,
Mm.
but I like
well
your
there's a
connection better. Yours makes much more sense, especially
well
since it was not in English.
to both of your points though is the mask, the Satan mask looks very much like a dragon to me, the way it's shaped and formed. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a deliberate connection. And
Interesting.
then also, vampires and witches are somehow linked here, and it doesn't, and as we kind of referenced earlier, it's not quite clear if they see them as different or if they see them as in league. It wasn't really not clear. Is she a vampire? Is she a witch? Is she both? I don't know. Are they the same thing? Yeah.
Are only
Yeah.
men vampires?
Yeah.
And the
Like,
women
it
are
was
witches
weird.
because she was not the only one killed. Both
Right.
her and that other guy were killed
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
on the same night. And
Javlitsik?
then, yeah, yeah.
Is that his name?
And then both came back. Also,
And it's
where does this
not
movie,
Boris.
right? Where does this movie take place? Does it just take place in Georgia? Because that also would be a good explanation. I'm just saying.
It would. I'm having a weird thought. First of all, I don't know
Oh,
how disappointed we all are in Joss Whedon. I am
yeah.
very disappointed in Joss Whedon. However,
Same.
Something that I'm interested in is how in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the cross also works, right?
Yes, and Susanna is a huge Buffy fan.
I love Buffy.
She was on Nerd That Church to talk about Buffy, and she watched as a movie commentary Buffy with Face for Horror Nerd That Church.
Wow.
Especially the very last, the last episode of season 5 where she sacrifices herself for Dawn. Like,
For Dawn.
specifically.
Woo,
Like,
into the
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And specifically the way that she falls from this
Yes.
high. It's
Yes.
not a tree, but it's the same thing. She falls from the tree, falls from this high platform in a cross
Right, the
formation.
high like building.
Yeah, so
Yes.
she when she falls, she's falling in that like cross formation, and it's
Mhm.
the chosen one who sacrifices themselves for others. Like it's so clear. It's a messianic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
One in every generation, right?
Mhm.
One in every, couple thousand years or whatnot.
But I also saw
Um,
her as like a Marian figure, as a goddess
Mm.
figure in a lot of ways too. So like
hmm.
in especially like in giving her body for the world, and giving, because like I see Mary as a messianic figure in her own, and that's the only thing that I like that the Catholics have on us as Lutherans anyway. But like, because she does, like, we don't talk about the birth, but like the birth, the birth was messy and hard and painful and like and bloody. Like Jesus ain't the only one who gave his body for the good of the world. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? Right?
That's right.
So like,
Although, interesting thing, since we're on this tangent, there's a Marian icon called Our Lady of Perpetual Help, which I'm sure you've heard of. There's churches of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. That's fascinating because she's holding Jesus, and in true icon style, right? He looks like a little grown up, right? But
Homunculus
it's
style,
very
yeah.
small, a little homunculus.
making signs
And
and stuff.
One of
baby
his
Jesus making
sandals is
signs?
falling off.
What?
One of his sandals is falling off.
Okay.
And
Messy. Love it.
in the behind her, archangels are flying in with the instruments of the crucifixion. And while she's holding him with open hands, he nevertheless has been running away. And so he runs into his mother's arms to the point that he loses his sandal, almost falling off, because he knows the crucifixion is coming. And she has this very placid expression, of course, and is holding him with open hands. Like, she's not like this.
Yeah.
Like this.
I love that.
It's very deep. I love Marian hagiography and iconography. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
But there's no Mary in this movie, which is also weird because in the Russian Orthodox Church, it's all about God the Father, Mary, and the saints. Jesus hardly appears.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, I think they know where their bread is buttered. Like, I know that if they don't appeal to women, like, they're kind of fucked. You know what I mean? Like, there's the only thing they got on everybody else is that they do speak to the average woman. Like, they do have, like, something that they can relate to. And I think they know where their bread is buttered.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then all these other
think they all
cultures
sound
that
honest.
respect women more than ours do. You know what I mean? Like, granted, it's a shitty, sometimes it's a shitty respect because it is putting women in a box, but there are a lot of cultures that, while putting women in this box that sucks, that I cannot condone as feminist, they still have this reverence. And to, like, take that reverence out of faith would be to alienate so many different cultures.
Mm-hmm. Although when you make it reverence, then you get into the whole Madonna horror problem.
Oh, yeah. It's my problem. I chose a long time ago. It's not Madonna.
Me too.
It's not.
Ditto.
No slut shaming in this religious podcast.
No.
Nope.
Sorry, Pace. Thank you so much for dealing with my, like, interjections whenever Buffy comes up.
Why is everybody apologizing today? Even Emily's apologizing
I'm
today.
still figuring out where I belong on your podcast, and like, and it's so like, cause I'm new, Kira, like I'm new,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
know if I didn't
Well-
know, but like
It the thing I was going to say about Buffy
Oh yeah.
is that there is no indication that Buffy is like super Christian or anything,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? There's nothing like that,
mhm,
but the cross is still effective.
mhm.
Like just the thing itself, especially if silver, is effective. It's like it's not about belief at all.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's about
Yeah.
the power of the thing itself.
Yeah, there's a movie I just saw, Fright Night, last week,
Oh, yeah.
where a guy tries to use the cross against a vampire and it doesn't work, and the vampire says it's because you don't believe, whereas another guy
Mm.
was able to use the cross effectively. So I think that's interesting when it's played with.
Mm.
But here, I mean, part of it is also this, what's the word I'm looking for? This homogeneous culture of religious artifact happening here, where like a cross is just a part of the culture, to the point that belief,
Yes.
like in a Russian Orthodoxy belief, it's kind of more, won't say more cultural, but more, but I would say there needs to be less. In America, I think when we think of Christianity, it's a very much a I choose to be Christian, or I believe in this.
Yes.
Whereas in some other cultures, and this movie does
It's
a good
just
job depicting
woven
it. It's more of
in.
like, yeah, it's
Mm.
just woven in. So
Assumed.
Yeah.
yeah. The one thing I had is that there's this theme of destiny in this, and it's this kind of inescapable thing, and how she was feeling drawn to this portrait of her great ancestor, and how that's like this inevitability that this is going to happen, which I
Mhm.
always think is fun when it shows up.
Yeah. Well, and it's an inevitability that also doesn't happen, right? It's supposed to happen, but the thing that protects her
Yeah.
is the cross. Because she
Mhm.
would have gotten
So that's
killed.
interesting because the cross is like theologically, right?
Mhm.
When the cross is the cross of resurrection, it's the sort of instrument of the undoing of destiny because of the undoing of the
Yeah.
destiny of death,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think it was,
Love
I
that.
don't think it was a crucifix around her
No, it wasn't.
neck. It was an empty cross.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Which in some parts of Orthodoxy, empty. I don't know Russian Orthodoxy well enough. I'm more familiar with like Greek Orthodoxy, but the
Mhm.
crosses typically are not crucifixes,
Right.
in Greek
I think it's
Orthodoxy.
mostly Catholics that do
Yeah.
crucifixes.
And some Lutherans and
My grandmother, who was
Episcopalians.
Episcopalian, would always say, I find the corpus a bit much. A nice
I love
cross,
that.
a nice cross is perfectly sufficient.
I love that.
She was
I
wonderful.
have both crucifixes and crosses because pastor life.
Yes,
Yeah.
pastor life in Lutheran land.
Mhm.
hmm
I don't wear them very often at all, but
Y'all are so ambivalent. I mean, it's rough.
yeah, it's almost like we don't like being pigeonholed into binaries, or like we
Woo!
don't like pissing anybody off, especially
True,
losers.
true.
It's almost like that. I very much appreciate that, Pastor Emily. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Um,
Now one thing that this was kind of funny because so when we started coming out with the witch season idea, Emily and I like we're both like we want to have some real witches on the podcast. So it's not, I mean, I consider myself witch and stuff, but like we want to have a broad type of guest on here. And so I one of the people I went to is Kira, because I like Faye's amazing and also involved with SCW and all these things. And so when we were talking, I was like, I think it'd be fun to do a movie that would have a lot of like witch iconography and stuff, and how all that is misused by Hollywood. And so we're like, let's look at this movie. This probably sounds like it has a lot of that, and then it
and it's
really
all
had
about
none of
vampires.
it.
I really had none.
So
Exactly.
but I thank you anyway for rolling with this movie, but also
Mhm.
just because it's such a trope in Hollywood, I'd love to just hear perhaps some of the ways you see it misused in other movies or examples and stuff like that beyond just this film.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the super classic one, right, is the misuse of the pentacle and the
Hmm.
pentacle
Yeah.
to induce horror. Specifically, like as
Mm.
soon as you see it, you know some bad shit is going down, right? It's like the cross in reverse, even though it's not an inverted cross, which is another whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, and
Also,
the
sorry.
idea of the black mass, which first of all, can we get all this like black everything and this
Yeah.
anti-blackness all over the place? Can I just note
Right.
that it's
Yeah.
really awful?
That's partly why I picked Black Sunday, because I was like, this is going to have stuff that we can talk about because it's important. And a lot of
Right.
witch lore has like dark magic,
Are
black
you a
magic.
black witch or dark witch, or black witch or a white
What?
witch or gray witch? You
Yeah.
know,
And I mean, we Charmed is a great example of that. We did Charmed
yes,
for our BooTube in September, I think. And they have that that false binary. Um,
yes, yes.
I'm curious if, before we get too far into this, you could just tell us a little bit about what Stone Circle Wicca is, because I
Mm,
don't know that our listeners know much about it.
right, sure. The Stone Circle tradition of Wicca, or SCW, Stone Circle Wicca, as we shorten it. So we can call ourselves squitches, which is not particularly appealing, but we do it anyway.
I love
Um,
it.
okay. Well, um, we were founded in 1999, and there's a little handful of us who are still part of the crew, and are
Wait, this year is 25
perhaps,
years.
yeah, 25 years. It's a long time. Um, and we are a progressive Wiccan tradition that exists to promote the fulfillment of Wiccan vocation. So we talk a lot about what vocation means in a Wiccan context.
Mhm.
We foster the spiritual development of Wiccan dedicants and initiates, and we offer service to our own community, to Earth, and to those who share the household of Earth with us. And the reason we describe ourselves sometimes as a progressive Wiccan organization is that we take some of these tropes, right, that either do
Mhm.
exist in traditional witchcraft or are get put on witchcraft or Wicca, and we do what's called substruction.
Mm.
Substruction is the simultaneous process of destroying oppressive cultures and building a new world.
Mm.
And that is really important to us in the Stone Circle tradition.
Mhm.
And one of the ways we express that is that we talk about the divine as one and many, male, female, both, neither, all genders, and beyond gender. And traditional Wicca is like boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. There's a god, there's a goddess. He's
Mm.
like the one who gets sacrificed and brought back, kind of like the Osiris trope with Osiris and Horus and Isis. Um, and we don't really play that. Like from our very, very, very beginning, there were trans people in the group that were initiated first.
Mm.
And there was a bunch of radical fairies from DC
Mhm.
and me and like two other AFAB um, women or femmes. And um, our teacher, the original craft elder, was like, huh. I came here to teach these people traditional Wicca, and it's not going to work. What do I do? And so we ended up kind of building the tradition using some traditional things. We have the quartered circle, right? We start in the east. We offer reverence to those things associated with the east, the south, the west, the north, and the center. And that is a very common trope in paganism writ large and in Wicca particularly. And in case you have listeners who are not knowing this, Wicca is one religion inside the larger umbrella of pagan religions that exist all over the world.
Nice.
I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, that's super
Very
helpful, and
yeah.
we'll certainly include links so that folks can
Yes, stonecircle.org. Stonecirclewicca.org. Oops.
Yeah.
You can edit that out, Susanna.
Yeah, okay. So now back to the tropes.
Well, and we were talking about black magic, and can I say something about black
Yeah.
magic?
Yeah.
Please.
In Stone Circle Wicca, if you look up the word black magic in our glossary, Pace is like, glossary? I didn't know there was a glossary. Just wait. We talk about how it diminishes the blessed importance of the close and holy darkness, and it is rooted in racist tropes about darkness, and it obscures the reality of maleficia, which is baneful magic, right? Doing things that harm or control other people. And so we don't use the term black magic unless we're talking about African diaspora traditions who the black practitioners of which might talk about black magic or black religion or black traditions.
Quick, just for our listeners, we had Lenny Duncan on, who talks a lot about black magic and their practice and stuff for a few episodes now, including Blade, and then also the Foundation, our Butu on the Foundation.
Yeah. And Lenny's going to be on an upcoming episode of Nerds at Church. Yeah, there's, Susanna, you can pipe in if you would like on this, but there's a TV show that I don't know if it made our cut, or it might be one of the like on the edge of the season of whether or not we cover it. That's a TV show that really like digs into black magic, specifically, also you're muted, Susanna. Specifically magic from, I think it's traditional African magic. You say it.
It's I forget the actual name of it, but it's called what is it called? Domino Lone Witch, and it's on, I think, AMC. It's a new season, and she is a black woman, and she is a new witch, and there's magic and all of these things. But what I really like about it is that there is like this like setup in this magical world where there's like regional like people that are like in control of various covens. Like there's like regional like representatives, and they've like outlawed what they call black magic, and that is always African. And so like the show actually brings up the concept of like, hey, this magic is outlawed versus this is my actual ancestral history. This is part of who I am. There is no me without my heritage, without my ancestral history. And like what I really love about it is that you see that the people who have like a lot of power, these like regional types, are mostly white, and they've like removed black quote unquote magic from the covens, and there's a lot so it really brings up the concepts of, is it bad or is it colonialism? Like,
Mhm.
is it, you know what I mean? Is it
Or
bad or is
both.
it, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, it's
Is it
it's
bad
very
or bad
cool.
colonialism?
Yeah, like, is it really bad, or is it just this is colonialism calling it bad because,
Right.
this doesn't ride in the histories and in the ancestors of the people who are in power, and they don't want to have anything that they can't, not just that they can't understand, but that they don't have power over in their general vicinity. So like I was really
Hmm.
happy to see this like concept of black magic be questioned
Mhm.
and be, you know what I mean, like question the authority of using that, who has the right to say it, and like what does it
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
actually mean.
Mhm. Mhm. I have many
Yeah.
friends and colleagues who practice La Regla de Ocha. We call it mostly Santeria, um, and coming out of Ifa from Nigeria. And they know from this issue a lot, right? They have this a lot of experience around this stuff. And they are white, black, and brown people. It's a multiracial, multicultural crew, um, but all coming out of an African diaspora tradition.
And that's like actually something that I really have a problem with in the Lutheran Church, is that we already have like so few pastors of color, and there are pastors of color who are like really like researching, especially the ones that are lucky enough to be able to find in their ancestry like where in Africa their ancestors come from, and then understanding those traditions and those faith traditions. And then the Lutheran Church is like, if
Mm,
you practice this, if you have anything to do with what is basically the faith tradition of your ancestors, then you can't be a pastor here. And that causes so many problems that it makes people have to give up pieces of who they are. And it's
mm,
a real problem, from what I understand, for pastors of color, particularly ones that have been blessed enough to be able to find out exactly which region from which their ancestors came, like, because it first of all, it's all been erased because of slavery, and then when they finally are able to find that piece of themselves, then the church is like, okay, your vocation then isn't real. It's a whole It's a
oh,
hot
it's very
mess.
painful.
And we're such a white denomination, and we're like, oh, we don't want to be so white, and yet we have policies like that. I have feelings.
Yeah. We kind of suck at stuff a lot. And that is one of the big ones. We talk about the mystery, that there's always the mysterious side of God, and then we're like, but you can't be into any mysteries. No.
Mm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Um,
We're all thinking deep thoughts, it's
yeah.
clear.
yeah.
Are there
Are,
other?
are we gonna talk about grimoires?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
There
Let's
wasn't
do it.
one in this, was there?
No,
Not that I saw, no, it's disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
just that
Yeah.
little icon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what is a grimoire and what isn't
It's
it?
basically a witch's cookbook. And oh,
I
this
have
is
a
the coolest
few.
thing ever. Maybe not ever, but Stone Sugar Wicca is making a church cookbook, and it's going to have both food recipes and magical workings and both. It's going
I
to be
I
love
saw
amazing.
that in
it.
the dish. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's great.
That is super
I'm really
exciting.
excited. I'm going to put in the magical working that got me the house I live in.
Ooh.
Ooh.
We
There
Oh,
you
could
go.
probably use that magical working right now.
right.
Um, Definitely River has some recipes that
That should go in, I bet.
Mhm, mhm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fascinating that there's no grimoire in this because we rate the films at the end, right? And in general, we do a like seasonal rating. So when it was Star Wars, it was how many kyber crystals out of 10, that sort of a thing. And so for this season, since it was witches, we were going to do like how many grimoires, how many like spell books of whatever type is used in that movie. This one does not have one. I changed it to St. George icons because I thought that was the closest, right? That's the closest we get in this one. But yeah,
Yeah.
grimoires.
In some movies they feature prominently. Like Hocus Pocus is another, we already covered this
Yes.
movie a few seasons ago. But like that one there, Grimoire, or which sometimes they call Book of the Dead and other things,
Look at
is
this Book of
quite prominent
Shadows.
in that film and the Book of Shadows.
Also
Yeah.
practical magic.
Yeah.
We haven't covered that one yet.
Yep, that one's
It's
going
on
to be
our
later
list.
this season. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite movies, honestly. I think that movie is what made me want to be a witch, actually. Yeah.
It is inspiring.
Mm-hmm. And the book's really good too, in very different ways
Yes.
than the movie.
Yes. So how many St. George icons does this movie get, Pace?
Oh, I would
Everybody
say,
gets to rate it. So you also
yeah,
get to say, Qira.
I would say 3.5. It really was. No, I'll bump it up to 4. So 4 full icons. I was gonna say 3 and then a mini tiny icon. But one of the icons I'm picking is the one you're talking about, the Our Lady of Help. Is that what it was? Because I
Perpetual
love
help.
Perpetual Help because I love homunculuses. So one of them is 3 are St. George's, one is Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And my favorite kill is gonna be the mask scene. That's it for me. What
Yes.
about either of you? I
They said
said,
4. 3
Okay.
yeah,
St. George's
4.
and 1 homunculus.
Okay.
Or
Okay. Because like while
What
we
am
were
I
talking
doing?
about St. George, I made little St. George icons to put on the screen because I'm
Aw,
extra.
Ah, you're awesome.
So
let's
I
do
was
it.
like, okay, I want to like make sure that I have the right amount of St. George's. You said 4
Yes.
Yeah, 4.
out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, continue gaily forward.
I have to think. Kira, do you know what you're gonna rate it?
I rate it 2 St. George's icons, one for the St. George icon stuff in it that has no relationship except its own coolness, and
Yep.
one for the actual use of the mask. Like that
Hmm.
was that was compelling to me, and also is my favorite kill.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're all thinking the same right now. Okay. I have to do them as I count. So 1 St. George's icon for the mask. Again, the favorite kill. It just was so good. Which is unusual for me. Usually my favorite kill is the biggest asshole. But not this
Who
time.
knows how the brother or whatever was?
It's
He
true.
could have
It's
been the
true.
biggest asshole.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, he was a guy, so a white guy. So chances are good. Um, 1 for the regeneration effects.
Yeah, that was great.
1 for the degeneration effects.
Hmm.
Oh no, this is getting to be too many. Okay, 1 for the regeneration, degeneration. We'll just put those together. I was gonna rate it too
Okay.
high. And 1 for the giant fireplace secret tunnel.
Yay. So 3 total. 3 St. George
I
icons
think.
for Emily.
No, I
Wait,
only had
there's
2.
Secret Tunnel is good.
no, and a half of 1 for the cow.
0.5 for the cow. Okay, so 3.5.
Yep.
Love it.
And for the vodka.
Oh, so we'll just do
Yes.
4. Cow and vodka can make
Okay.
a whole one.
Thank you. I can't cut them in half. This is good. Okay. Wonderful.
4.
I love it.
Does Susanna get to
does
vote?
She
I
has
didn't
not
see it.
seen it.
Oh,
You didn't see this one.
No, but you won't be able to stop me when they do practical magic, okay? Like, I freaking love that movie so much.
because
And
it's so good.
it's
Yeah.
so good, and I
Right?
have a sister that I am deeply close to, and it is our movie. Like, it is our, like, we
Oh.
grew up with that movie. It's the movie that we watch when we're having sister time. It is, and it has a sequel finally coming out now, 25 years
Wow.
later. Holy crap, it's
I
very
didn't see
exciting.
that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's based on further books in her series or
Yeah,
not.
she
I'll
came out
talk
with a sequel. Like, she had other books.
Yeah,
but those
yeah,
books
there
were
are 3 books
prequels.
total, I think, in the series.
Right, she came out with a
Well,
fourth one.
one's a
in
sequel, one's a
2022.
prequel.
Well, no, like,
Okay.
it was my understanding that the 2 other ones were, like, prequels.
I
And then
love
she
that
came out
we're
with a-
arguing about Alice Hoffman's works right now.
And then, like,
So
how,
related to.
and so, like, the latest
'Cause
one
I've
came out,
read-
like, 2022, and now they can finally do a sequel, and it's supposedly about the girls, the daughters.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, like,
Yep.
I'm super over the
We already
moon
did
about
witch
it.
lore.
I'm
Throughout.
super excited.
We talked about both of those things already.
We didn't name
Good.
it in witch lore. We have a witch lore section. I'm too
Okay,
artistic to
fine.
keep the witch lore
This is what
section
happens when we
separate.
have, a 5 who's autistic as well.
I'm just
Um,
saying.
yeah.
I think we should name
Go for it.
explicitly the witch lore that we
Yeah.
get from this movie.
Go for it. Which is not
Particularly
much,
because-
but yes.
It's, not particularly.
It might as well be
accurate.
vampire lore.
Yeah, it's basically vampire lore. That crosses
It
are
is.
effective at banishing, and that vampires and witches may be the same thing. And also, is this the same universe or a different universe than the Dracula 1931 movie? That's my big question. We did
I
not
think it's
discuss
different,
that.
but yeah. I think
What do we
different.
think? Not a what do they
Because-
think? What do we think? Do we think this is the
I
same
think
universe?
I think it's different because if witches and vampires are that closely related in this universe, then you would think that Dracula's 3 brides have been witches in that, but they are clearly
Yes.
sapphic vampires.
Okay.
So
okay.
that's why I think it's different.
Okay. I'll accept that. That's why it's 0 jump scares. Also,
Yeah.
Zero.
my guess
I'm
is
surprised.
Susanna would rate this as 0 St. George icons because the dog dies. Dogs.
True.
Dog
That's
died.
true.
But does it pass the HNAC test? So, Qira, and our listeners who have not yet heard us explain the HNAC test. So, the Bechdel test?
Absolutely.
Right. So we have our own test. And it is, what we have noticed is that it is very rare for someone who is bad to redeem themselves without dying.
Right.
So in order to pass the HNAC test, the character who is bad or that does evil or whatever has to not die to be redeemed.
Right.
And then to super pass, they have to also start doing the work to repair the harm that they did.
Oh, that's just silly. Come on now.
Right.
Right? So obviously this one is interesting
doesn't
because it
quite
depends on
apply.
who we understand as harming who, right? If we
Mhm.
think about the general witch trials and the persecution of witches in our universe, the ones who caused harm were the ones persecuting the witches, not necessarily the women themselves, because most of them were women, whether or not they were witches. They were accused of being witches. And so if that's how we're looking at it, then it would be the family. And does the family actually do any redemption-y things. And it doesn't seem to me like they do. They just
Yeah,
kind of
I don't think so.
killed it. But if we're flipping it the way that the movie kind of wants us to, and saying that the harm is no, flipping it so that instead of redemption, it's revenge, then I think it works because the witch is taking revenge, is taking back the harm that was done to her, but she still dies. So still doesn't ultimately pass.
Yeah, I don't
No.
think. Yeah.
I'm just
You have to
came
really
up with it,
reach.
and then we've been watching all of these movies
Uh-huh.
that it doesn't apply to, and so it's like I have to find a way to make it apply so we can talk about it because I like our HNAC
Yep,
test.
yep. Well, as we wrap up this episode, which we barely talk about the movie, which isn't that rare for us, let's be real, but this movie was particularly not as inspiring. I love that we had such a rich and great conversation about other things. But for our listeners or viewers who want to find more of you, Kira, are there social media handles you want to shout out? Any special projects or stuff you're working on that you want to share?
Well, there certainly is the stonecirclewicca.org site, which is sometimes throwing a security error. I promise the site is fine. We are struggling with our
Oh,
people, so
let me help you with that.
um,
We can talk later if you want help with that.
okay, thank you.
I would
You
love to
can
help
also
you with that.
find, I would love for you to help me. That would
Yeah.
be great. I'll hook you up with our communications officer.
Okay, yeah, I'd
Um,
love to help.
you can also find me talking about fat liberation on my blog, Taking Up Space, which is quite out of date at the moment, but is about to be not. And that's at Catherine with two A's, Catharine, Clarenbach.com, and thewayoftheriver.com, which is where you will find out what a website looks like if it were to look like me. Like if I were a website, this is what I would look like.
I
And it's
love
my
it.
ministry website.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well,
That's awesome. So definitely check them out there. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. So for those of you who are watching live, um, for our Halloween Town episode. Halloween Town, yes, I'm talking about the Disney movie that came out in 1998
decom.
and was directed by Dwayne Dunham. Yes, I'm super excited about it. Yes, I picked that one. Yeah.
It's our first decom. I'm so excited too. Disney Channel original movie. So excited.
I'm super duper excited about it. And that will come in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, Patreon stuff just dropped. And a reminder, if we get 20 Patreons, we'll do a live Thirsty Sword Lesbians role-playing
Oh,
game for everybody.
no way.
Yes, we need
What if one person paid you $100?
I mean,
We
That would be
consider it
like
probably,
20
yeah.
things.
yeah,
Oh,
that's true.
my
That's true.
Metamore has the most fantastic Thirsty Sword lesbian plot lines. Oh my God. Oh
You
my
should put, you
God. You have
should
no
be our
idea.
DM
I
then.
totally
Yes.
interrupted. Go right ahead.
No.
Okay, here's the deal. If we do it, do you think your Metamore would be willing to DM?
Uh, I would say yes, I would say probably.
Okay,
I could ask
I
her.
love it.
okay.
And I'll
Yes.
give you a little clue. One of the storylines involves the book Stone Butch Blues.
Also, have you read the book Hijab Butch Blues? Because you need to. But you don't need
Ooh.
to, but it's by
Ooh,
Lamia H.
yeah.
She was a guest on Nerds at Church
Mm.
for our superhero spectacular season, and they talked about Asiya, which is as close as we could find to an Esther equivalent in the Quran.
Mhm.
It was fantastic and they are amazing. And I listened to the audiobook for Hijab Butch Blues.
Mm.
Spectacular. And
All
it is
right.
inspired by Stone Butch Blues. So I'm just saying.
All right. I'll ask my Metamor about DMing for Thirsty Sword Lesbians for
Yeah,
you.
That
that'd
would
be
be so
amazing.
cool.
I have my character already. I'm a
Yeah.
very thirsty lesbian in real
Prob
life and also in
yeah.
my character.
Probably I'm gonna say we're very close to yes on if somebody just paid us $100. Uh, I can't we have to like have a conversation off screen,
Of course you would. Of course you
but
would.
that sounds exciting.
And there's
Yes.
also the providing of a DM. I mean,
Right?
Hmm. Come on.
it's got to be worth something.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Because that's I was when
I
you
am
first said it, I was
so
like, okay, but
inappropriate.
we have
I'm
to
so
like
sorry.
No,
have a DM
please.
and how does that
Oh my
we could just
goodness.
We love
like
it.
we could just make a one-off Patreon purchase that like anybody can purchase. Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Oh my gosh, this is exciting.
Yep. Yep. Well, with all that exciting stuff, now you all definitely need to become Patreon supporters. And I'm sad to say that that's it for this particular episode. Our theme music was by Matt May. Our super witchy tech magic was by Susanna Porter. Our amazing guest was Qira Clarenbach. We release seasonally with a live video on Tuesday evenings and audio on your favorite podcast provider Thursdays. Please comment, rate, subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're probably there. If not, let us know and we can try to make that happen. We already said support us on Patreon. It's only $5, so much cheaper than making a very elaborate Mask of the Devil that you can murder people with. Um,
True.
Follow us. Yeah, follow us on all the socials, Facebook, Insta, Horror Nerds at Church, Blue Sky, Twitter, HNAC, POD. That's where we share most of our updates. And then until next time, I too will say, take academic conferences with a grain of salt.
Every conference.